Before I stuff this engine back into my car, I thought I'd shoot a quick video on the air intake I built for this 2-liter 914 engine. I had a number of criteria when I built this thing, made a long wish list, and I didn't think that I'd be able to meet all of them. But first and foremost, I wanted to quiet the induction noise from the carburetors. I don't like loud engines, and the quieter I can get things, the better. I also am not a fan of K&N filters, so I was hoping that I could improve the filtration a little bit on this without restricting the airflow. Didn't want to impact performance too much on it. I thought it would be nice if I could use the stock air filter element. Just makes it easier to keep track of what's going on, what parts you need for the engine, so that you don't have to remember what custom filter element you ended up using on it. So that was on the wish list. Wanted it to be able to fit underneath the rain tray, and we'll find out here in a day or two when I put this engine back in if I accomplished that. But if I measured right, it should fit up underneath there. I also wanted the filter replacement to be a tool-free operation. I also wanted to be able to get to the tops of the carburetors without having to use tools. So that was on the wish list. Of course, it couldn't block the dipstick or the oil filler port. So you need to be able to check your oil and refill it as you need it without having to pull half the top of the engine apart. I was looking for something that would appear like it was stock, I really covet the look of the 914.6 air intakes. I think they're just beautiful, and so I was hoping to get something like that. And so that was my last criteria, was I wanted this thing to be dead sexy. I'll let you be the judge. I like the way it turned out. So look around here a little bit, and we can see that yes, there is easy access to the dipstick and oil filler. So I was able to match that. Oh, there was one other thing on the wish list too. Is I thought it would be cool to take advantage of doing a custom intake and possibly get something more like a cold air intake. And so that's why the snorkel bends around the way it is. I thought that would be the coldest place for air to come in, as the fresh air is moving in down here and coming in to cool the engine. Then we just siphon a little bit of that cold air off to feed the engine itself. So the first thing I did, trying to see what I could do to meet all these crazy wish list criteria, is I decided to just look up, what did Porsche do for the only carbureted 4-cylinder 914 that they built, which was the European 1.8 liter engine. And I found out that the air intake that they used was the same as was used for a lot of the VW buses. So I thought, what the heck, I'll see if I can find one of those. Turns out they're pretty readily available on eBay, and I ordered one up, and I think I paid about $30 for it. And it came in so I could play around with it, and the thing was pretty dirty and reeked of cat piss when it showed up, but I got it all cleaned up, and that's what ended up forming the base. And so that ended up ticking off a lot of the criteria that I had on there. And then show you, so these are the intake arms that come stock with that air cleaner, because it was built for Solex single barrel carburetors. So once you get that center section on, all you really needed to do is fabricate up some new intakes to run into it that would fit onto the dual barrel carburetors. And so that's where I went. So let's look at what we've got here. So here's the main air intake housing, and you can see it's VW stock part number. So I think I'm well on my way to something that looks like it could be stock, because it was stock on some 914 engines. And the only things I really had to modify other than build, you know, the new air intakes on it is that this port uses a larger diameter hose than what the 914 used for the charcoal canister air intake to be able to feed into the filter housing and burn off the hydrocarbons from that. And the other one is the original air intake on this side had the oil breather port on it, and so you lose that when you take that off. I probably should have just welded a metal one in over here on this intake, but I forgot. So instead I got some plastic pipe from McMaster Car, and I heat welded that in using some scraps of zip ties that are ABS plastic, and just melted it in and made a nice little port there. So let's start tearing this thing apart and see how this works. So as far as being able to change the filter, everything is just these stock bail clips, so you just snap those off. And then you can still buy these from VW. They come with some kind of a black anodized coating. I didn't like the look of that, so I stripped those down and I replated them to yellow chromate to match up, and I think it looks more period correct, but these are the same part numbers as what originally came with them. So there's 2 of these on each of the intakes here, and those pop off, and then the entire top lifts off. So, and then what we have inside is the stock part number for the original 1973 2-liter 914 engine. So there's no trying to remember what the heck it was that I put in this. When I go to replace the filter element, I just go and order up a stock filter element. So so that all comes off, and then so the intakes themselves, I just used the 914.6 as a model for this, and just built up these air intake housings, just brought them up about as high as the velocity stacks on top. This gasket, I played around with some fancy gasket material that I got from McMaster Car, but all of it was way too hard. And what I actually found was some polyurethane, I think it's polyurethane gasket material just at the local big box Lowe's, used for trimming around windows and things like just weather stripping, and that worked really well. So and I think that's going to be oil resistant and should hold up just quite fine. If it doesn't, I'll find something else. But it's a nice soft material so that when the intakes clamp down, it forms a nice tight seal on it. Now, the other thing on this is the whole housing can come off without any tools. So I needed to build a little bracket for my horn here, because that's a lot of weight cantilevered off of there. So I didn't want that bouncing around. But again, I wanted to keep it pretty stock appearance. So I made this little bracket here, and then to secure it down, I just have a little spring on there that I can take that off, and then the horn itself can come off. And then once you get down to there, there's 2 more bail clips, just like on the stock filter housing for the 2-liter, and then that pops off. Now the bracket is kind of interesting. I started out, I had a couple of spare air filter brackets from a 1.7 liter. And so I took one of those and I just modified it. And the things I needed to do is, one is I had to cut a notch out of here and rebend this so it was at a 90-degree angle. And then I shortened I shortened the whole height of this thing down. So I actually cut this off and re-welded it shorter. So I took, I don't remember, about a ½ inch out of it or something like that. Trying to pull it down as low as I possibly could. Rebent the feet down here so that it would lower the whole bracket down as well too. And then underneath is CSP bell crank linkage. Nice and low profile. I think this would probably also work with some of the cable linkages that are available out there as well too. But the one thing I had to do, because I wanted to get this thing as low as possible, because remember I want it to fit under the rain tray, is I ground out just some relief cuts on each side so that the bell fittings would not interfere with that. So it's pretty tight tolerances in there, but it seems to work pretty well. And then the bracket itself is the original stock 2-liter filter housing bracket. So I just bolted that down onto the 1.7-liter bracket, and then I've got a nice mount to put the filter on. So that's worked out really well as well too. Not sure what else need to look at here. That's pretty much it. But again, putting it back together is not too difficult. And sorry for the wild camera swings. I'm not a I'm not a professional video maker by any means, so just deal with it. And then I've never done this one-handed before, so see how easy that is to do. So now that's back on. This just slides on. I'll see how this goes. It's a pretty snug fit. Oh, the other thing I'll just show you real quick is I did put a little bit of a rubber lip on here. Just I'm not a fan of rattles and vibrations, so I put some rubber in there to cushion that, and that also ought to save the paint on the bottom of the snorkel that I built. Now all of the fabrication work was just hammer forming. I don't have a lot of tools for doing metal fabrication. It's pretty crude hillbilly stuff, and I've never done anything like this before either. So this is really the first project that I've done of this nature. But there's a lot of good YouTube videos out there to teach you how to do some hammer forming techniques, and it's not professional by any means, but I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. So, and then there's just a little bail down here that you snap that spring on. So the bottom end is now installed on here, and then the top is just the reverse of what we started with. It's unfortunate that one intake came off, because those are a real pain in the butt to get back on. When you do it two-handed, you can pull that off easily without losing the intakes, so it's a lot easier. And one of the reasons I wanted to be able to access the tops of the carburetors is that I live at high elevation. I haven't lived with a 914 that was carbureted before, so this will obviously be tuned for high elevation. But I've got a lot of friends out on the coast, and I'm hoping to be able to drive this car out to the coast, and thought it might be nice just to set up a low elevation jet stack, so that when I get down to low elevation, I can just swap out the jet stacks easy enough and not have to worry about driving around at sea level and with a lean engine and risking overheating. So that's the idea behind it. I don't actually know that much about carbureted engines, to be honest with you, so that's just maybe me being too paranoid, but that's the idea anyway. And then, yeah, so just snap it all on. And then these just need a little bit of adjustment to get right, so they'll snap down. Just can't do this one-handed is the problem. There, that's down. Sorry about that. I just can't do this and keep the camera on it at the same time, so sue me. And this, I don't know if I'll be able to do this one-handed, but we'll see. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it went in. Not bad. There. One more. There. Connect up the crankcase breather and the oil breather, and that's it. So just do one more little walk around here. What it looks like. So that's it. That's my custom-made attempt at replicating air intake following what was used for the 914-6. I think it makes the engine look pretty damn sexy myself, but you know, you can be the judge of that. So thanks for watching. Bye. Okay, of course I forgot to show you one thing, which is the accelerator cable bracket that's also built into this. It's just a little tab welded up underneath the air cleaner bracket itself. A little hard to see under there, and I don't know if it'll focus on it or not, but so I set that up the same distance from the linkage attachment as the stock air cleaner was from the throttle body. So hopefully that's going to work. A little bit of a guesswork there, but I think that should work pretty well. Pretty much set up to replicate the attachment that was on the stock system. So, all right, that's it.